Work, buy, get debt, die. Work, buy, get debt, die. This is the role that the people who run the world, the powers that be, they have tried to program me and you, the regular people, the little people, to play. This is what you're here to do. This is the part you're expected to play. Don't believe me? Let's break it down. Since the time you are a child, you're taught, do what you need to do to get a good job. Why? Because we live in a world, we live in a society where in order to survive, you need to make money. This was not always the case. There was a time you could just go out and get whatever you needed to survive. It didn't take money, just took time and energy. Something readily accessible to every man and woman born on this planet. But they changed that. They switched that up. That was too easy. That was too equal. Now we have a world, we have a society where you have to have this thing called money. And you can't just go out and get money. You can't just walk out and, money doesn't grow on trees, as old people love to say. Money don't grow on trees. So instead of being able to just go out and pick the food you want to eat, or grow the food you want to eat, or hunt for the food you want to eat, or build a house out of the raw materials that are readily available to you, these days you have to work in order to get the money to hopefully buy the things you need, to buy that house, to buy those clothes, to buy the food. They've created a middleman. Whereas before you could do it all for you and your family, now you have to work for someone else, and hopefully they'll give you enough money to be able to buy the things you need for you and your family to survive. Since you're a child, you've been taught, do what you need to do to get a good job. Work. Now, this would not be a horrible thing if work paid what it should pay for everyone. Now, we live in a society, especially those of us in the United States, Western culture, where basically they say if you're not making enough money on your job, it's your fault. Now, we all know there are millions of jobs that pay peanuts that some people are going to have to take. There's just so many jobs. But it's your fault if you have one of those jobs. That's what we're taught to believe. But if you really look at it, they tell you get a job, and a large portion of these jobs are for corporations and companies that purposely pay their employees next to nothing, or as little as they possibly can. The fact that we have to have a minimum wage shows you that companies would pay less if they could. Right? If every company was paying their employees as much as they could pay them and they were really, in it to help the employees, you wouldn't have to have a minimum wage. But the fact that there's minimum wage laws shows that companies and corporations and employers would pay you less if they could. Had to put a law in place to keep them from paying you less than $7.50. So you go to work. You work 40, 50, 60 hours a week. And they in turn pay you a very small percentage of that company's overall profits. CEO, goes to work 40, 50 hours a week and makes a much larger percentage of the company's profits. You make $40,000 a year, she makes $6 million. Not saying she's not worth $6 million, because I know someone will be like, CEOs make that much because they're worth that much. Not saying he or she's not worth that much. But if she's worth $6 million, I think I'm worth $120,000. But that's step one, work. Now, when we're working, we're creating goods and services. We're creating goods and providing services. And like we mentioned, they pay you peanuts. Here's the real, like, interesting part of this whole thing. Who do you think is buying all these goods and services? Us, the very same people who are sweating and breaking our backs to make them. So they get us to make these things, provide these things for very little money, and then they get that very little money they pay us back when we buy these goods and services from them. I was thinking, this modern day plantation, way more profitable for massa than the old plantation. You know, back in the day when you had physical slaves, you had to like buy them, and then you had to like feed them and clothe them, and you had to have overseers to watch them, and there was a lot. There was a lot of overhead back in the day, slavery. This modern day slavery, this modern day plantation, way more profitable. Because you come on your own accord. They don't care about your housing. They don't care if you eat. They don't care if you make enough to have clothes on you and your kids' backs. All they do is provide a job, pay you a few dollars, and then they get a good percentage of those few dollars back when you buy the stuff from them. I bet the rich people, you know, when they sit around in their little meetings at Jackson Hole and other places, I bet they just laugh it up. I said, man, this is great. Our ancestors, they struggled. We've got it made. So there's work, and then there's buy. Now, on the normal buy, you can't really blame us, okay? If I'm taking the money I make at work and I'm buying the things I need to survive, I'm doing what I have to do for me and my family. However, that's not enough. Not enough profits in that. So what they've done is come up with all these marketing schemes that program us to think we need to buy excess stuff. It's not enough to just survive anymore. You have to survive on a level that shows other people you're successful. Shows other people you've made it. Now, they don't pay you enough to make people think you're successful. They don't pay you enough. But they fix that too. If you fall for the programming and you think you have to have bigger, better, faster, prettier, just to show the neighbors you're balling, but you don't actually have the money, guess what? Here's the next part of our equation. Get debt. This was an extremely brilliant thing on their part. Said, yeah, we need them to keep buying stuff so we make more money, but we don't pay them a lot, so they're going to run out of money. Someone was like, well, we'll just let them borrow the money from us, and then we'll charge them more money. You can't make this stuff up. We'll just let them borrow the money from us, and then we'll charge them for giving them the money, and we'll make even more money. Brilliant. Brilliant. We will make people think they have to have all these different things in their life. We won't pay them enough to buy them, but then we'll loan them the money to buy it, and we'll charge them for that too. So now not only are they giving us the money they made on this week's paycheck, they're also into us for the next 5, 10, 15, 30 years of paychecks. So not only can they not stop working because they owe us so much money. Oh man, it's funny, but it's also very sad. And when you stop and look at it this way, you're like, wow, it is a game. Work, buy, get debt, do that your whole life, then you die. And the really funny thing is that even when you die, it doesn't stop. Because there's certain, I did a video about this the other day, but there's certain ways you have to be buried that cost a lot of money. So even in death, you're in the cycle. You're buying, because you got to buy all this expensive stuff for your funeral. It never stops. It never stops. If you follow the game plan and you follow the programming and you do the work, buy, get in debt, die, all you are doing like your whole life is sending money to the top of the pyramid. There's always been hierarchies in human civilization, in the animal kingdom in general. There will always be hierarchies. And I think that, one of the reasons why some of the first structures ever built by humans were pyramids is because they was letting us know there's always going to be people at the top of the pyramid, the rich and powerful making the rules, and then at the bottom is the rest of y'all. Okay, that's just the way it is. Now, in a fair society, the powerful would look out. The people up here would look out for the people down here. That's how you have a powerful, strong pyramid. We don't live in a world like that now. The people up here look out for their profits. And they have figured out a way to keep those profits coming. Work, buy, get in debt, die. And if you don't stop and think about it, you will fall into that cycle and you think you're doing the right thing. That's how good the programming is. That's how good the marketing is. You think that you are doing the right thing following along in this cycle, in this system. The average person, it never occurs to them that something's wrong. Even though they can never get ahead, even though they're deeply in debt, even though they don't own anything that they own, even though they spend their whole life trying to pay stuff off. A lot of people die in debt. But once you see the game, once you peek behind the curtain, once you peep what they're doing, I think you get angry. It's like, what? You doing this to me? You think I'm gonna fall for this? And then you start really trying to figure out how to break free from this cycle. There are ways to work. Actually, let me just say this, to be fair. There are companies you can work for, corporations you can work for that aren't money-grubbing a-holes, okay? I always say work for people you trust and companies you believe in. That's out there. If you want to work a 9 to 5, if that's your grind, find a job you love for a company that really cares about its employees. There's companies like that out there. If you can't find one of those, it might fall to you to work for yourself. Never been easier to do that. It's still hard, but there's never been a time in history, the internet, your cell phone, changed the game. Never been a time in history where it's easier to figure out a way to make money for yourself. And you can pay yourself well if you do it right. Also, we come to the buy portion of the equation. If you only buy the things you need and maybe a little extra, you will have more money left over, which means you have to work less. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, blowing all your money, you gotta keep working. Gotta keep working. You're under their thumb. But if you can live below your means, be saving money, be investing money, you ain't gotta work as hard. You don't have to work as hard. One of the things I love about minimalism, why I don't put a lot of labels on myself, but I'll say I'm a proud minimalist, is because it helped me break free. Because I was making good money, but I was buying so much extra stuff. Thought I had to buy certain stuff. Had to ball. People had to see I was balling. I don't do that no more. If I don't have the money for it, I don't really need it. My self-worth is not tied up in the things I own. As long as they can make you believe that, you'll stay breaking your back, working for them, spending all your money on non-important stuff, and then you'll go into debt. Because you'll have blown all your money. You'll probably have to go into debt for things you really need. Because we're out here blowing all our money on things we don't need. When something we need comes up, we got no money. You got to go in debt. Or you'll go into debt for things you don't even need. You'll go into debt for once. Once you realize your self-worth is not tied up in all that, you really just need to survive. You can cut all that spending out. You start to cut your debt down. You start to get your paychecks back. And not only do you have this week's paycheck, as you cut that debt down, all those paychecks that you already owed them will start coming back to you. And it is a beautiful feeling for pretty much all of your money to come to you. And then for you to only spend it on things you need, maybe a few extra wants, and then be able to put money in the bank, invest money. And as that money piles up, you start to realize, oh, I don't need them as much. And that's how you hop off their whole work by getting debt die thing. And if you're not doing that, if I'm not over here working, buying, getting debt dying, well then what am I doing? Well, you'll be over here living. The other side of the equation is living, enjoying your life, being happy, spending time with your family, doing things you love. They don't want you doing that. Or they want you doing just enough of that that you don't rebel. We'll give you the weekends, but if you can break free from their model of existence, you can start actually existing, you can start actually living. And it might take time. It might take time. It's not always easy because the whole world we live in is set up this way. But it is possible to break free from that cycle. You can be living. You can be stacking money. You could be investing. Your time, your energy could be being used for your present and your future. Not just for their future. You could be working and living for yourself. But it all starts with realizing, like, this is a game. And it's been set up to turn us into just like, I don't even know the right term. I would say like worker bees, but worker bees don't have debt. I would say like modern day slaves, but slaves didn't have debt. You know, this is a whole new thing. This whole debt thing totally changes the paradigm. There ain't even nothing in nature or in the world to compare this to. We work all our lives, spend all our money, borrow more money. Like it's crazy. And we think we're free. We think we're free. You gotta peep what's going on, folks. And when you peep what's going on, you can start figuring out ways to break free. Because this whole work by getting debt die system only works for the people up here. Talk to y'all later.